I just think more and more people also understand that NATO expansion was the taproot of the problem. I mean, Jens Stoltenberg, when he was the head of NATO, said exactly that 2 times. I actually privileged those 2 quotes from him where he says basically what I've been saying for a long time, that NATO expansion is the taproot of the problem. And by the way, Freddie, this is a realist argument, right? My argument against NATO expansion was that the Russians would view it as an existential threat, and it would lead them to pursue a policy that involved destroying Ukraine to prevent it from becoming part of Ukraine. That was very much a realist argument. But people in the West rejected that realist argument, and they were making more liberal arguments about why NATO expansion was justified. The argument that Ukraine has a right to join NATO. This is very much a liberal argument. And the argument that people like Mike McFaul made that NATO expansion was not about containing Russia. It was all about spreading the liberal order from Western Europe to Eastern Europe. Those kinds of arguments were not realist arguments, and they were the competitors to my argument.
So do you feel like, if we're looking ahead to the presidential election in less than 2 weeks' time, do you think that to some degree both candidates are now realist on Ukraine? How would you characterize the difference or similarity facing the US on that topic?
Well, I would just say at a very general level, I think that Ukraine is the one foreign policy issue where Harris and Trump are furthest apart. I think with regard to East Asia, the China threat, with regard to the Middle East, Israel, Palestine, there's not a lot of daylight between the 2 of them. But I think on Ukraine there is. I think that Trump has long wanted to, number 1, have good relations with Russia and Putin in particular. Number 2, shut down the Ukraine war. And number 3, reduce America's commitment to Europe, if not end NATO. I think these are instinctively the things that Trump wants to do. Whether he can do them is another matter. I think Harris, on the other hand, will continue, if she's elected, the Biden policy of doing everything possible to continue to support Ukraine, to remain deeply antagonistic toward both Putin and Russia, and to certainly continue the alliance. So I think there's a fundamental difference in terms of what their intentions are.